where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas? In this podcast, we take a deep dive into his brain and shed light on his creative process. Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
こんにちは、小島秀夫です。ポッドキャストプログラムHideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure.
Hello, I'm Hideo Kojima with the podcast Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure. Here we go. This is round 2. We finished episode 1 and are on episode 2, which means we are making some progress. Here with me again today is my partner.
Hello, Brains here. I'm looking forward to recording with you again. And we're starting with a famous quote from Mr. Kojima. I consider myself 70% film.
そんなわけはないんですけど
Of course, that isn't actually true. But just like people's bodies are said to be made of 70-80% water, I feel like movies have inspired that much of what makes me who I am. Of course, I have books and I have friends and family too. Movies are just one example, but you won't grow with just movies. Please eat food and drink water and also study.
Mr. Kojima, you often post about films on your social media.
紹介しますけど
Yes, I post about them. I'm in a creative field, and well, it's honestly not really necessary for people to create things. But humans are imaginative, and since I'm also a creator, I don't want to hurt other creators' feelings, even if their work isn't entirely good. When you make something, you face a lot of both praise and criticism. On my own social media accounts, I'll praise things, but I don't want to bash them. So, take it with a grain of salt. Not every part of the things I share is particularly interesting or good.
I see. This is a good segue into the theme of today's brain structure. So, I'll take the opportunity to announce it now. Mr. Kojima on films.
No? いや
Well, you did give it away, but Mr. Kojima, I heard that there was a film you recently watched that you really liked.
北米ではもう上演
It's
され
been
て
out in the US for a while, and it finally came to Japan. Jordan Peele's Nope. It's called Nope, but for me, it was a resounding yes.
I see.
で、Jordan
Director Jordan Peele is a famous comedian turned director. He directed the movie Get Out and Us, and his work as a producer on Candyman was pretty good too. As a director, Nope, it's his third film, and can be categorized in the same genre as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's a new kind of a horror film using a novel way to scare the audience like Hitchcock in his golden years. His work also focuses on social issues, so he set the bar pretty high. He really hooked me with both Get Out and Us, and now Nope as well. I get really excited about his work, and my expectations for his films have gone really high. But the high expectations must get pretty hard for him after a while. Which is why I think he's in a very difficult position as a creator. It's tough creating something new and satisfying to the audience. This put his third work in a really tough place, but for me, it wasn't a nope, but definitely a yes.
This would be a good time for me to explain the movie a bit. The Haywood family makes a living by running a large ranch in a rural town. The story begins when the family's eldest son, OJ, becomes fed up with his sister, Emerald, who has skipped out on her work on the farm to visit town. At this point, mysterious, unidentifiable objects begin raining from the sky. OJ had been talking with his father right before this happened, and when the phenomenon stops, he realizes that his father has died. When recounting his father's mysterious passing to his sister, he reveals that he saw some sort of giant flying object in the sky shortly before his father died. The siblings decide to try to capture the object on video, hoping to post it on the internet and go viral. However, an unimaginable situation awaits them.
これね、中身全く言えないですね。
This is tricky. I can't really go into depth, can I? If you watch a trailer, you'll see a cut from the scene when the giant object appears. Actually, right before watching this, I had just watched Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's similar to that kind of movie. I can't really give away too much though. A big spacecraft type of thing appears, and I can't really explain what it is, but when it appears, I was surprised by the way it looked. I was like, what the heck is that? There are a few places where there wasn't enough foreshadowing, but I've never seen a movie quite like this before.
As someone who has watched a lot of films, how did you feel about this one?
もうそうびっくりです。
I was really surprised. Jordan Peele must have filmed this during the pandemic under a lot of pressure from those around him. He really did a good job making something like this. I think there were probably people who were against it too. It was probably pretty hard for people to understand the concept from either the proposal or the screenplay. Looking at the storyboards, the reaction was probably, "What is this? Are you really going to make this?" In order to make a project like this happen, you have to persuade a lot of people, and you have to work to get their approval. And the director of photography is a very famous person too. When I realized who the photography director was, I was truly impressed. I can't say much more than that, but you're really going to see something special.
So it made you wonder how he got the approval from those around him to make the movie?
それもあります。だからものづくりって
You could say that. There also aren't many people who can understand the creator, especially with something like this, something that they'd never seen before. And there were a lot of people involved in making it. And in the end, made it into a hit movie. I think that really shows how good Jordan is.
Would it be safe to guess that it's a UFO type of thing?
それはちょっと
I can't quite say. I was born in 1963. There was a British TV drama called UFO, but before that, mysterious flying discs were all called flying saucers. Later on, they started to be called UFOs or unidentified flying objects. Before the Cold War, there weren't any man-made satellites, so basically almost anything that flew was an unidentified flying object. UFOs were really trending back then. Aliens, Roswell Grays, cattle mutilations, etc. People were saying that flying saucers were coming to Earth to observe humans. People were abducted and metal devices were put up their noses, and when they were returned to Earth, they would talk about the danger out there. There was a lot of news like that, and even in Japan, directors like Junichi Yaoi made UFO specials every month or every 6 months and try to scare us. Even though we are currently in the age of UFOs, you don't really see those types of shows anymore. We even took photos of UFOs pretty often. Do you know how we took them?
How did you take them?
窓ガラスに UFO の
We paste photos of UFOs onto glass and take pictures of them. It was pretty easy to trick people that way. Did the same using space battleship Yamato too. It worked really well because nobody had smartphones like they do nowadays. Now we have smartphones and drive recorders. Surveillance cameras are everywhere. So, cameras are watching 24 hours a day. These days, everyone has a camera, and if they saw something, they definitely take a picture. In this day and age, people don't believe in UFOs because if they existed, we should have good photos of them. Monsters are the same, and paranormal creatures, Loch Ness Monster, and ghosts. People think they don't exist. That's what people believe these days. When we were younger, good camera technology didn't exist, so we assumed that strange things existed but just weren't caught on camera. So for us, UFOs were real. Nowadays, with smartphones, you look at YouTube and you don't see good footage of UFOs. In this age of UFO disbelief, it's amazing that Jordan was able to bring this theme into the movie. I won't give away too much, but at the very beginning, there's an animated scene of a person riding on a horse from an old movie. Just a bit ago, when you summarized the movie, you mentioned that the goal was to capture the mysterious object on camera, right? In most movies, the theme would be battling the UFO. The first concept in the movie focuses on photography and cinema. There are about 3 other themes, but one of them is about the film industry. And of course, it focuses on UFOs too. To go a bit deeper, they try to make a viral video by getting a video of this mysterious object. So it's a pretty modern concept. But then suddenly it's like, what the heck is that? But I can't say anymore. That's why for me, it's not nope, but yes. I'm going to go see this movie one more time at an IMAX theater. This is definitely something that should be seen in IMAX.
I see. So the visuals are really powerful?
絵の力ってすごいんですよ。
The visuals are really powerful. I'll get in trouble if I say more though. What new thing will Jordan come up with next? This move, following Get Out and Us, it was a bit of a curveball, and only someone like Jordan could create a movie like this during the pandemic. Nobody but him could get together the budget, the staff, and the cast of famous actors. So you should watch without being too nitpicky, and look upwards, just like in Nope.
Look upwards, like in Nope?
Well, like maybe something is up there. I rewatched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and in that era, aliens were bad and scary, abducting people and making evil plans. Same with Before We Vanish and the Alien franchise. They arrive from space as aggressors, and even Ultra 7 too. There are some conspiracies about Spielberg saying that he worked for the US government and stuff, but in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the aliens were the good guys, in E.T. too. There was a period of time when that was popular too, aliens as the good guys. And then, UFOs became a little outdated, and we focused more on creatures from outer space. Starting with the Alien franchise, they didn't really have any intelligence, just living to breed. Creatures from outer space, alien species taking over the world with their strength. The focus changed and moved away from the UFOs, which were a little more abstract. It was really interesting entertainment. And then we have Steven Yeun, the actor from Walking Dead. His scene in the movie was really strange. I can't really go too deep into that though. But his character was involved in the movie business as a child actor when he was younger. He did some TV shows and stuff, and in the beginning of the movie, we see that while acting in one of his roles as a main character, he went through some sort of incident and suffers mentally from it. And it's UFO related. That's another way they try to sell the movie. To be honest, it's a bit of a weird sell, but that's the movie business. The key word is entertainment, and I think it manages to do the job. But it's not really a difficult movie. You can just enjoy it. Well, enjoy it or be surprised by it. Jordan's staging is a little bit strange. The editing and the music, it's different than your normal Hollywood production, and the beginning is a bit slow. In his style, often nothing will really appear in the first hour. In Jordan's movies, people don't suddenly get eaten and go, "Ah, what's happening?" Well, you can say the same thing about Close Encounters of the Third Kind too. But if you go in thinking that there won't be a lot to see, you'll be surprised at how much actually happens.
Actually, Mr. Kojima, for today's talk, you did a bit of research on UFOs, and I have that data here in front of me.
まあ40代50代はみんな知ってる。
Well, it may be a bit of a stretch calling it research. I think everyone in their 40s and 50s will know this stuff. Like the Adamski-shaped UFO, you know what that is. Or the cigar shape. The Adamski shape is the most well-known though.
Like a reverse hat shape?
そうそうそうそうそう。下
Yeah,
に丸い
the bottom part is round and it spins. The cigar type is just that, shaped like a cigar. UFO shapes usually fall in one of these categories. Aliens are gray, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with that face we all know. Actually, the reason they look like that is because when a spaceship crashed into Roswell, the dead alien body said to have been recovered by the military was gray. So in our generation, most aliens look like that. Well, there were other types too, like Venusian aliens who look like normal women. I think those were fake though.
So you take the Roswell stories pretty seriously?
当時はね。で軍隊が隠していると。
At the
あと
time,
FBI に
I
関わる
did.
宇宙人
I heard stories that the military was hiding information and the FBI had captured aliens. I made an homage to that in the Metal Gear series. But in our generation, aliens were all gray with big eyes. Human-shaped, but with proportions like babies. I even had conversations about them with the old ladies in the neighborhood like, "I think aliens are real. Why do you say that, Hideo?" Because even though people are really imaginative, everyone who has been captured by an alien always describes them as gray. I thought that was pretty unbelievable. It seems too much like a lie, so it must be true. Like they should have described them in a more believable way for a living creature. Even though they could have lied to make their stories more believable, they all described them with that same sort of look. So I thought they must exist. But now, I think maybe not. It could have just been mass hysteria.
Or group mentality rather than subconscious thought?
どうなんですかね、それがまあ
Who really knows? At the time, there were a lot of conspiracy theories, and the information from the US military seemed to be supporting them.
That was talked about a lot.
In Area 51, they said aliens were making flying saucers. I've actually been pretty close to Area 51.
Where was Area 51 again? Nevada, right? It's in the middle of the desert?
Yeah, in the middle of the desert. It's still there now.
What do they do there?
They're probably making something there, right? There were a lot of fictional stories that took place in Area 51, so much so that if Area 51 was brought up, people kind of lost their interest. But it was just that famous. There were even tours that went there,
I see.
like crop circles.
Yes, those are popular too.
あれサインとかでありましたけど、
They happen in the movie Signs. Areas and fields and pastures flattened into certain shapes. They researched them and said they were impossible for humans to make. Things like that and cattle mutilation, they said that humans couldn't have done it. And because of that, they started saying the saucers weren't just flying. They were coming and doing all sorts of things. That was all the talk when I was a kid. In Japan, there weren't any UFOs though, but there are old folklores like the tale of the bamboo cutter. There was a character from the moon in that. Oh, and Ultraman Ace too. But when you say that, people lose their excitement. When you call them moon people, their reaction is like, seriously? It makes me wonder why UFOs are trending again. Paranormal beings, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Japanese Tsuchinoko, Chupacabra, those are scary. I dislike those.
Chupacabra?
Chupacabra, the giant blood-sucking things from South America. Loch Ness Monsters too. They recently discovered some sort of odd swimming creature, right? What was that again? Some sort of animal that was swimming around. Things like that are still being seen today. In the past, they took a photo of one and it got famous. But now, anybody could take a photo. So maybe Loch Ness Monsters don't exist.
In the past, there weren't many cameras. And there weren't many people actually out and about carrying them and taking photos.
それもありますし、まあ
That's right. I mean, people were making things up too. But even then, for something to appear at that very moment, with the right person there, that would be close to impossible. But everyone has a smartphone now, and cameras are always recording, even when people sleep. Now there's YouTube with all kinds of videos. These days, with house break-ins and petty crimes, people are caught pretty quickly by using those hidden cameras. If you use one of those, you'd definitely be able to catch a UFO or aliens on it. If a giant UFO came and abducted people, we'd know. Oh, but in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with the blinking lights and stuff, but I can't say more than that.
Are you talking about Nope again?
ノープはですね
In Nope, and also in Death Stranding, when the UFOs get close, electricity goes out. Well, UFOs back in the day were the same too, I guess. Cars would stop and their engines wouldn't work. I guess you couldn't use your camera either. That was pretty smart.
As a way to not leave any evidence behind?
Yeah, but now if there was a UFO, it'd definitely make the news. It'd be impossible to censor. But it's sad to think they don't exist. And then there is Nope. I mean, there probably aren't any ghosts either. Denying UFOs means you're denying supernatural phenomena. If there were people with supernatural powers, they'd definitely be caught on camera. Anyone could post a video to YouTube. If YouTubers could do that, they definitely would. If there was a YouTuber with superpowers, they'll have millions of followers. And if you think that they don't exist, it may be a bit disappointing to think that UFOs, paranormal creatures, supernatural phenomena might not exist at all.
The American military released some documents.
情報解禁が2年前でしたっけね。
The release of the classified documents happened 2 years ago, right? Was it last year? At that time, I thought it was all over the world. If they announced that aliens exist, the world of entertainment will be over. I mean, if aliens exist, if there's evidence of it, we wouldn't be needed anymore.
Really?
The people who make fiction, we can't beat something like that. If aliens exist, everyone would be like, we don't need Death Stranding anymore. And I was really scared. But then they didn't really release anything, did they? All the sensitive information was blacked out.
That's right. On the documents about UFOs?
It was the same with the Kennedy administration. They said they would release documents however many years after he died.
50 years.
極秘資料がいっぱいあるんですけど
There are a lot of classified documents out there, and the ones released lately weren't much of anything. And I was relieved. It was really nerve-wracking. I thought the world was going to end.
If they confirmed the existence of aliens, it'd be a problem. If they said they didn't exist, it would be a problem.
Well, they wouldn't say they don't exist,
They wouldn't?
because they do exist. I don't really know how exactly we interacted with aliens and stuff. I don't know what kind of aliens are out there, but my generation has worked in partnership with them. We've made spaceships. I think we have ties with them. I'm not sure if there are enemies or friends, though.
Mr. Kojima, do you believe in UFOs and aliens?
宇宙人はいますよ。
Aliens exist. To be honest, I don't think we can really meet aliens in person, though. We're too far away. There's a time difference. I think many people react in disbelief when asked if aliens exist, but I want them to exist. But if they were like E.T., that would be boring. Or if they were like the Alien franchise, that would be the worst.
That's true. Aliens coming to attack us wouldn't be great. With all that said, everyone who has listened to today's episode and been intrigued by Nope should...
映画館で見る映画なので
It's definitely a movie that should be watched in theaters. When seen on the big screen, you'll definitely be like, what the heck is this? But you won't be able to really talk about it with people unless they've seen it. So we've got to increase the number of people watching it.
It should only be talked about with people who've watched it?
Even though I said I wouldn't give anything away, we've been talking about it on this podcast for around 20 minutes, haven't we? I think everyone is seriously wondering what the movie is about.
I'm sure they are. But it was released in America in July and in Japanese theaters on August 26th, 2022. So when this podcast is aired, it will probably still be showing, right?
アメリカでも大成功なので
It was a big hit in the US, and it really gets you excited for what Jordan Peele will make next. As a creator, I felt cleansed. You can feel pretty isolated making something that hasn't existed before, like with Death Stranding and Metal Gear. Even though you can't do it alone, there's not a good way to show people your ideas. You can't show them the inside of your brain. You draw pictures and try to put it into words. But you can't show them in moving pictures. They really did an excellent job with it. It's incredible.
I see. And now it's time to wrap things up. I hope we hear more from you about Nope and about UFOs again sometime. And now, for our next segment...
Hideo Kojima presents Brain Stretcher.
ここからはゲームジャーナリスト
It's time for game journalist and TV presenter Jeff Keighley's one-man show, TGA, The Jeff's Answer. What news will he bring us today? Let's hear from Jeff.
TGA, The Jeff's Answer.
Hey, it's Jeff Keighley, and this time I wanted to talk about a question that a lot of fans have been asking me when I ran into them, especially at Gamescom a few weeks ago. Jeff, why are there so few new games coming out right now? Of course, we all want a new game from Mr. Kojima, not to mention many other favorite studios. And this year, especially this summer, has been very light for new releases. Yes, we got Elden Ring earlier this year, and some surprises like Stray, which is a really cool game if you haven't played it. But overall, you're probably eager for something new and epic, at least until God of War Ragnarok comes out later this year. So what's going on here? Well, I think one of the big drivers is definitely still the pandemic. A lot of studios call 2022 the COVID gap year, meaning that a huge number of games that were scheduled for this year originally have been delayed into 2023, such as Starfield, the sequel to the Breath of the Wild, and many others. Making games is already hard, but most studios I talk with say their productivity is only about 80% of what it used to be to finish up and test games. Working from home is great, but it does make collaboration slower. And while some studios are back in the office already now, I've been visiting some this summer, and there are people there. It's not the full team, but many of them still continue to offer remote work as an option. And sometimes you have to do that for competitive reasons, because many studios like Bungie and others are committing to full-time remote work as an option. So for some of the most talented developers, they have a lot of choices now where they want to work, and you have to offer that remote work, which is great often for work-life balance sometimes, but it's very difficult when you're developing a game to develop everything kind of from home. So this ultimately has meant that games are taking longer to make, especially brand new worlds and IPs, where some teams have told me their productivity is as low as 30% of what it used to be when you're trying to sort of first break the new gameplay concept or the new world and really innovate in the type of game that you're doing. That's the kind of work that really requires a team to brainstorm, experiment, and collaborate. Now, all of our lives have been impacted by the pandemic in different ways, and it still sometimes shocks me that so many fans continue to expect game releases to be completely unaffected. In 2020, we got a lot of games that came out at the start of the pandemic because they were largely done and just being kind of tested and finished. But now, new games that were started during the pandemic back in 2020 are just taking longer to create, which means this year is ultimately lighter for releases, and hopefully 2023 will be much busier. Now, there are other factors at play too. It's still hard to get the new consoles like the PS5 and Xbox Series X, which means there's a smaller addressable audience or install base for next-gen only games, and that sometimes means developers and publishers are less eager to ship games right away until there are more systems available, which ultimately means more potential players. And the poor launch of Cyberpunk a couple of years ago has made many developers extra careful to not ship a game before it's truly ready for release. It's very hard to recover if you ship a buggy game. And on top of all that, generally there are fewer bigger games in development, with so many live service games like Apex, Destiny, Fortnite eating up playtime, and subscription services like PlayStation Plus and Game Pass giving gamers access to much more content as part of their subscription. The bar now is really high for a brand new game to break through and be able to command, $60 or $70 as a retail price. Do I think we need to worry? Well, no. There's a lot of great stuff in the works, and I'm actually now traveling around the world, piecing together the Game Awards for December, and I'm already feeling cautiously optimistic that next year we'll have many more new releases for fans. So even though developers have kept us waiting, there's a lot of great innovative work to come from the video game industry.
さて早くもエンディングのお時間です。
And now it's time to end the show. We've been calling them UFOs this entire time, but they aren't called UFOs anymore. What are they called again? It starts with a U, but it's different after that. That makes me a little sad.
Really? UFOs are unidentified flying objects, correct?
What are they called now, though?
UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena.
フェノメナ。
Phenomena, right. That's different than an object.
Not just a thing, lights and such.
But phenomena, that would also include paranormal creatures, wouldn't it? If it's not an object, what is it? It's strange. It feels a bit like conspiracy theory. You can hold objects, right? Like third encounters in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There's the first kind, the second kind, the third kind, and the fourth kind. They go back and forth. But let's not talk about that right now. Phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomena?
Nowadays, pilots are the only ones seeing them. I mean, pilots are surrounded by cameras. But that's not really very interesting. Back in the day, pilots would be the only ones seeing things, and they would talk about them and nobody would believe them. They call it neurosis now. They've seen alien spaceships and other stuff.
It seems like they would be in a good position to see spaceships and such.
月面を降りた人は絶対足つかんでますよ。
The people that landed on the moon definitely saw things. They aren't saying anything, but they definitely were bribed with money and stuff. One conspiracy theory says they saw people from other countries who actually got there first.
So on the moon there were actually people? Maybe another time we should talk about spaceships.
Spaceships, UFOs, UAPs, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Anyways, we'll end it here today.
ということで、来週の秀夫小島プレゼンツブレインストラクチャー。
And that's it for today's episode of Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure. We look forward to seeing you next time.
次回もお楽しみください。さようなら。
Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure is a production by Spotify Studios in association with Kojima Productions and Fam Inc. TGA, the Jeff Sanser MC, Jeff Keighley. Brains, Kayleen Falls. Narrator, translator, Owen Maki. Music, Silent Poets. Visual design, Mechikuro. Producer, Hiro Furuki. Director, Kohei Takizawa. Executive producer at Spotify, Asami Sekine. Special thanks to Kojima Productions, Ayako Terashima, Masafumi Chiba, Miki Suga, and Aki Saito. Hosted by Hideo Kojima.
Finished? Not yet? Coming up next, the world-famous animation film director of Ghost in the Shell and Innocence, Mamoru Oshii, will talk with Hideo Kojima, stimulating conversation between the two legends of anime and game industry.